Sign microphones are still on. Asafo and who? Asafo, mute your microphone. It is giving us feedback. Now, in terms of identifying areas that can benefit from the training, we are saying that you are now privy to information on the various standards that have been set at the specific departments and the functional areas under the departments. And you're also privy to the actual behaviors of people over there. You are also knowledgeable about the competencies they need to perform those tasks. So having been exposed to all that information, you will now need to identify areas which, in your candid opinion, needs to be improved to benefit the administration of training program. So that is where we expect that in comparing for instance, the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the job incumbents with the benchmark out there, which is in that community of practice, the standard what has been set over there. Does it mean that to be an IT officer, you have to charter or you have to get some high-level certificate before you can function? Or does it demand that you must command some number of years of working experience before you can call yourself an IT officer? If that is so, then you have to factor it in your training program so that the training will be an avenue for people to get the desired certification or the desired attachment or experience. Then the last one is what we say you have to prioritize areas that can benefit from training. The priority is important because there are two main schools of thought when it comes to training. We have the exclusive school of thought and the inclusive school of thought. The exclusive school of thought believes that in every organization, there are some key people whose contribution really matter when it comes to the achievement of organizational success. So we are basically talking about their performance. The exclusive school of thought believes that training should focus on the nurturance of these key people whose contribution to organizational success is indelible or we cannot do away without it. So that is the exclusive school of thought. Then we have the inclusive school of thought where HRM also resides. And they believe that every employee, irrespective of their locus in the organization, at least in their minute way, also contributes to the achievement of organizational success. So whether you are a security man, whether you are a cleaner, or whether you are the director of the company, you are all seen as people whose efforts and the energy they expend is valuable for the organizational success. So when we say you have to prioritize areas that can benefit from training, we mean that having gone through all these steps, you are now exposed to a wealth of knowledge about the background of the various departments. So you are now expected to tailor it such that at the end of the day, the training program will be beneficial to the participants. So all that I said, the explanations, the deeper explanations are here. But quickly, for the purpose of exams and the quiz that we'll be doing, let me recap something that I said. Please, can you see my screen now? What are you seeing on my screen?
Task analysis process.
Oh, okay, then let me change it because I want to illustrate something. What are you seeing now?
The same, okay, blank.
It's blank now. Good. So I mentioned that to do that comprehensive job description, you must have conducted what we call job analysis. And job analysis simply refers to the comprehensive summary of the various knowledge, skills, and abilities, and also the duties and responsibilities that one must perform. So, job analysis, basically, the KS is the knowledge, skills, and abilities that one must possess before they will be successful in a job, and also the duties or responsibilities, right? So, we can't job analysis. Basically, we are talking about a comprehensive summary that delineates the duties and responsibilities of a particular job and the knowledge, skills, and abilities that one must possess before they will be successful in the job. Now, this job analysis has two main outcomes: job description, job description, and then job specification. When we talk about job description, that is a comprehensive summary of the duties and responsibilities of a particular job. So if you are an accountant, what are your main duties? If you are an IT officer, what are your main duties? What are you responsible for at the IT department? That will be your job description. Now, when we talk about job specification, that is basically the KSs. So the amount of experience you must possess before you can be successful on a particular job, the competencies you must possess. So competencies in the area, some certificates that you must possess, level of education, whether you should be a chartered person, and so on and so forth. All those fall under job specification. So you can't job analysis. It has two main end products: job description and job specification. And before you can do proper task analysis, that is perusing what happens at a particular department, you must have thoroughly conducted this job analysis. So if you don't do the job analysis well, you will not be successful in the creation of, for instance, the job description. So a typical example you can use to familiarize what I'm saying is that go and look for any current newspaper and look for the advertisements that are displayed in it, the job advertisements in it. You will realize that after presenting the title of the job, the next issue that they talk about is the job description. So you realize that they are talking about some specific responsibilities that the prospective job holder is likely to perform. Then right after that, they also start talking about the educational background that one must possess before you will be considered for the job. The number of years of experience that you must also possess, the age cutoff, and so on and so forth. So all those things fall within what we call job specification. When you look, if you find a newspaper and you are confused, you can take a picture of it and send it to me for me to clarify for you. Okay, so let me go back to the next issues. So all the explanations I provided, and they are all here. Okay, when you go, you take your time to look at them. Now, the last item, as far as training needs analysis is concerned, is what we call person analysis. And as the title or the name suggests, in person analysis, our interest is to direct the training program to the needs of the employees or the individuals who are actually performing the job. At the organizational analysis level, we are thinking about the bigger picture, the entirety of the organization. At the task analysis level, we are zeroing into the various departments and the functional units under the departments. And we are still under the task analysis level. We do the analysis in such a way that if today employee A is not there and employee B comes, he should be successful to perform it. That is why we depersonalize the individuals from the task. But the moment we get to the person analysis level, we are further zeroing in the the analysis to the individual employees who work in the organization. So over there, we are interested in verifying the various challenges that employees are facing. And some of these challenges can be identified out of what we call performance appraisal. Some organizations perform appraisals twice in a year, others do it 3 times in the year, depending on how fixated they are about achieving the target for the year. Now, so when we say you are using performance appraisal as an avenue of identifying employee training needs, it means that as a supervisor, you are comparing the actual performance of the individual employee to the standard or the objective that was set for the employee at the beginning of the year. Now, after this comparison, you are also determining whether the actual performance is deviating from the standard that was set from the outset of the year. And if there is a deviation, you are also professing reasons to why there was such a deviation. This indicates that if an employee's performance deviates from the set standard, it will not be right or it will not be professional to sack them outrightly. There is a need for you to analyze to see where the problem is coming from. So if an employee is not performing simply because they did not get adequate resources in terms of the tools that they need to be successful on the job, then you cannot reprimand or punish such a person. This is the case where the tools they need to work, you are not providing it, and you still expect them to excel. So all these issues will come out of the performance appraisal you conduct. And if the outcome of the performance appraisal indicates that some of these deficits can be corrected through training, maybe you got a lot of complaints from your customers that your employees are not, in terms of their relationship with customers, it is not very good to write home about. Then you can decide to say that you correct it using a customer relation seminar. Again, if you anticipate, in addition to, so beside the use of performance appraisal outcomes, you can also conduct person analysis by asking around the employees of the department you are targeting or in the organization certain areas which they think they will need to beef up so that their performance can be enhanced. And this is done vis-a-vis your anticipation about some of the changes which are currently occurring in your community of practice, whether it is technology, whether it is the the changes in the machinery or tools that you are using, changes in a particular software you are using, or even changes in how you intend to serve your customers. With such feedback from employees, you can now use the information to design a training intervention. So basically, under person analysis, your interest is assessing and understanding the needs of individual employees in your organization. And these needs are are put together as a comprehensive program and later on administered onto the employees. Let me see if I've left something out. Okay, so when we say you are using the 360-degree performance appraisal to ascertain employee training needs, it is pretty much simple. Let me quickly illustrate for you to see. Can you see the blank screen? Hello, can you see the
Not
blank
yet, sir.
Okay, yes, a minute.
Not yet, sir.
Is it showing now?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. Now,
Yes, sir.
so please, some of you have your microphones off. Please put it off. Performance appraisal. When we talk about performance appraisal, it basically refers to an evaluative exercise that supervisors conduct for their employees to verify whether the standard that was set for them have been achieved, or whether the standard that was set for them, they failed to achieve it. So that is basically performance appraisal. Why is my pen not coming? Okay. So performance appraisal. Now, in the slides, I put in the 360-degree performance appraisal system. And when we talk about the 360-degree performance appraisal system, it simply means that as an employee, you are being appraised by people that surrounds you. So you all agree with me that traditionally, employees at their various departments or units get appraised or evaluated by their supervisors, right? So that is the traditional way of appraising employees. But when we say you are using the 360-degree feedback system, it means that on the Cartesian plane, at every 90-degree angle, there is an individual there who will be administering some form of appraisal. And I'm sure you are all familiar with the Cartesian plane. So on top of the employee, so assuming this is the employee, on top of him will be his supervisor. Okay, and the supervisor will be appraising the employee by comparing his or her actual performance with the set standard to see if there is any deviation. And feedback will be given to the employee. You all agree with me that in your various departments and units where you work, there are certain happenings that your supervisor might not be privy to, especially if your supervisor has his own office and the remaining workforce also have their own office. So current performance appraiser recommends what we call the 360-degree feedback system. So that at every 90-degree quadrant, there is another person there. So in addition to the supervisor, you can have the peer or your colleagues who are constantly with you and monitoring the day-to-day, week-to-week happenings. So they are also given an opportunity to appraise you in a form of peer review, to give you a candid feedback of their expectation of your behavior towards your performance of your duties. Now, in addition to their peers, if you are someone who also deals directly with customers, under the 360-degree feedback system, the customers are also given an avenue through the suggestion box and the personal contact you have with them to also evaluate you, so that you will get an introspection into how you've been serving them as a form of feedback. In addition to the customers, the 360-degree feedback system also gives room for the individual to also appraise themselves. So self. You are given an opportunity to appraise yourself. And you are expected to be as candid as possible. In terms of your candidness, we expect that you will indicate whether the initial objectives that was given to you from the outset of the year was even realistic in the first place. And also whether the resources that was provided to you was sufficient to the achievement of the objectives. And if it was not sufficient, what are some of the challenges you encountered? What are some of the things you bring on board which you will construe as your strengths? So all those things will fall under your self-evaluation. In some jurisdictions, if you do not deal directly with customers and you have subordinates, this place can be replaced by subordinates. So you can have your subordinates over there, so that they will also evaluate you to give you feedback on how you've been running them for the entire calendar year. So that is what I meant when I mentioned the 360-degree feedback system over here. Okay, so when you are reading, just picture the Cartesian plane I drew and how the person was going to be appraised. So let me see if I've left anything out. All right.
So, sir.
Yes, hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, go on.
Does that mean GCTU uses the 360-degree performance appraisal?
Precisely.
Because from time to time, questionnaires are given
to students
to evaluate.
Exactly. So for lecturers at GCTU, we use a 360-degree feedback system. That is why students, even last semester, I think you did it online. All students were made to do it online. And it even secures the anonymity of the students. In addition to that, the lecturer is also supposed to, at the beginning of every year, we set our own objectives for the year. Whether you think you can do 2 publications or 1 publication, you will be teaching maybe 2 courses. And if you are now doing your PhD, you also put it there as one of your objectives to complete all your assignments and so on and so forth. So the lecturer is also given an opportunity to assess themselves at the end of the calendar year to see whether they were able to achieve their stipulated objectives or not. Then their supervisors, which are usually our coordinators over here, also appraise us against the objectives that was set for the lecture. So if it were courses that you're supposed to teach, were you able to teach them successfully? If you could not teach, what are the challenges that you are encountered? So that lessons can be drawn from all these things. And so on and so forth. Now, even right now, students, the project work that you do, I don't know if you are aware now, they allow you to do peer evaluations. So it is not only your supervisor who will evaluate you. Assuming you are 3 students in a group, okay, the assessment now is that 50% is allotted for the peer review, so that each member in the group will appraise their colleagues candidly. So if assuming in the group the job was done predominantly by only one student, then it is expected that such students will be given higher scores than the remaining ones. Then the remaining 50% will also be done by the lecturer. But if all the students come around, and you know, when we are supervising, we monitor you a lot. If you come around, we ask you questions, you are not able to answer, we give you assignment and only one person is doing it and bringing it. And at the end of the day, you all score yourself 50, 50, 50, 50. Then the lecturer will seize the opportunity. In fact, the coordinator will seize the opportunity to let the lecturer do only the appraisal. So you have to be mindful about how you do it when it gets to your project work evaluations.
But sir,
Yes, hello.
these appraisals that we have been doing, are they really considered in our part of the world? Because to me, they are not taken into consideration sometimes.
Okay, why do you say so?
Because if uh, they are critically going about it, we should have seen some changes in the personality of the person.
Okay.
Because there are recommendations that maybe I will make, which are suggestions based on maybe the way I and the person behaves. If it is a workplace, whilst I'm a peer colleague and I've given appraisal, there will be good and bad.
Exactly.
But I think management have to see what we have given for if there should be any orientation or any other things to be done about it. At the end of the day, in most offices, we don't see that.
In fact, you are 100% correct. All the issues I'm raising over here, they are the ideal. But in reality, the truth of the matter is that in some corporate organizations, they don't even conduct performance appraisal at the end of the year, which is very, very bad. So I'm admonishing you to the best practice and some of the lessons you can draw out of the appraisal to the betterment of the individuals in there and the organization as a whole. I will not even be surprised. There are some organizations where we don't even have a department that is responsible for HR. So one person doubles as the manager, as the accountant, as the procurement officer, and so on and so forth, which is very, very Herculean. So all the issues I'm raising over here, they are the ideal things that best practice recommends it to happen. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. And another thing that I also entreat you students to do when it comes to the appraisals you do for lecturers, don't take them for granted. Sometimes when you meet students and you are speaking with them one-on-one, the sort of complaints they profess to you about a particular course they are doing or a particular lecture, and you juxtapose that with the things they've written about the lecturer, you tend to realize whether, is it the same students who appraise this lecturer? The same can even be said about our various offices that we find ourselves in. Sometimes a lot of people make certain complaints about their supervisor, but with this 360-degree feedback system, the final feedback, when you pull it out and you are going through and you compare that with the complaints that they were initially raising, you tend to wonder whether, in fact, they were telling you the truth or they could not do the appraisal very well. So sometimes if you do not find changes in some of your expectations as far as behavioral outcomes of employees are concerned, the appraisers are also partly to be blamed because they sometimes do ratings which are unrealistic. They overrate or they overemphasize the strengths of whoever they are appraising. And some people also de-emphasize. So that is actually a huge challenge we have to grapple with as far as performance appraisal is concerned. But let me add here that I am going so much into HR. So let's come back to the HRD. Let me see if I've left something out. Aha, very good. Now, as far as person analysis is concerned, it's generically, it's also composed of two main components: a summary component of the person analysis and also a diagnosis component. And when you talk about the summary components of person analysis, it's basically encompass the overall success of an individual employee's performance. So after assessing the core competencies and the duties that the individual perform, what is your overall assessment of such a person? That will be the summary person analysis. Now, the diagnosis person analysis is the components that HRD interventionists are always interested in, because it is the part that prefers reasons for performance gaps, or that prefers reasons for the discrepancies between an individual's actual performance and the set standard. Okay, so effective performance may be a source of idea on how to improve employee performance, but analysis of an ineffective performer can identify what HRD intervention we can put in place to mask their inadequacies. What we are trying to say is that if you assess the performance of two employees, it is possible that one's performance will be very superb and the colleague's performance will be below standard. Now, the diagnosis component of the person analysis will help you to identify why their performance is substandard. And by going further to understand it, you will understand the reason why initially I mentioned that you don't have to sack an employee for a non-performance, because there could be several reasonings for their non-performance. So the diagnosis component will help us to know whether the fault is coming from the employee or it is coming from the organization in terms of providing conducive working resources and working environment. If it is coming from the employee, then you can design an intervention depending on the nature of the problem to cater for it. So for instance, if it is a financial problem and the person is asking for a salary bump, then you creating a training on customer relations program will not be a solution to the financial challenge they are experiencing. So that is what I mean by you have to diagnose it, identify the problem they are facing, and if it can be resolved with an HRD intervention, then use training or any sort of HRD intervention to resolve it. Okay, so questions are now welcomed. You can now unmute your microphones and ask questions, okay?